Hi, Spots and Cheap Pops. You're on the air.
Hi, Spots and Cheap Pops, ladies and gentlemen. Still at Constantine Valley. Lottie Dottie, the fastest growing wrestling talk show the last 20 minutes. So give it up for us.
Yeah, man.
We are back in Lottie Dottie. We are having an exciting time. AEW has actually been pretty damn good, particularly after the pay-per-view and arguably one of the best dynamites ever just last night. And we're going to get into it today. We're not going to really touch on WWE, Lottie, because, quite frankly, it's been a lot of filler. Raw was pretty much just a filler. There's some things that happen, but nothing crazy. So we're going to focus today's episode on AEW. We will talk about the announcement that Paul Heyman made the WWE Hall of Fame. He will make his speech and be inducted in Philadelphia. And so we're going to get into that and some other Hall of Fame stuff. So besides that, though, it's going to be mostly AEW. But a lot of great things happening in All Elite Wrestling, considering where we were just talking about just, 4 or 5 weeks ago. Killing this company, killing Tony Khan. Their creative is horrible, what have you. They bring back and bring in people who are about storytelling. Talking to an Emmy Award winning, the Jen Carpenter. Jen Pepperman. And then, of course, bringing your favorite back, QT Marshall. But either way, the storytelling has been really good lately. And they also, oh, by the way, are putting on banger matches pretty consistently. So there's still some stuff that makes it look like an indie product here and there. But last night, I can't think of a lot. What did you think? I personally, it was my favorite Dynamite. I don't even remember the last time I enjoyed a Dynamite like that. So I was super happy. So congrats, Tony and AEW.
Yeah, I mean, it was a stronger show, one of the strongest shows in a while, for a couple months for sure. I probably enjoyed this more than anything even during the Brochacho era, because I thought things were getting stagnant and stale during that period too. So seeing this, a couple new faces, a couple different angles starting to bloom over here, and you see some things sort of collecting, and you see pieces sort of getting set up together in certain circumstances. They're turning the page. This is a whole new chapter. And, one of the first things we can lead off it with is this seems to be a reoccurring theme through the show is your boys, Nicholas and what's the other one's name there?
Matthew and Nicholas Jackson.
That's it.
Have some damn respect for the
I'm sorry. I almost forgot the one that could speak. So, so they were throughout the show, especially 2 segments, I should say, they made appearances in. And they had a huge announcement. And as they made the announcement about the announcement, they were literally mocking Tony Khan. Right? So, they're just, making the faces and, even talking like him. And so then they get out into the ring.
It was great. Tell me that wasn't awesome. Wait a minute,
Nick. Awesome.
Yeah, they were they were being very focused on the camera and smiling.
Yeah. So then they get to the ring, and they basically tidied up what happened with Sting and Darby. Nicholas Jackson actually took, and I forget the direct quote, but I'm like, he actually took credit for ending a retiring man's career. He's like, he said something about Sting.
I would assume.
Yeah, it was about Sting, and it was I forget the exact quote, but he basically saying that he ended his career, but Sting is retiring anyways. It could have been anybody, man. Again, I get it, he's a heel, but it was just, I don't know, his delivering shit with that was a little bit off-putting.
I think that's pretty funny. I don't remember it being that bad. I mean, I don't have a high bar for Nick Jackson. I'm not going to lie to you. So I didn't think anything was overtly bad. In fact, I would say he felt more comfortable because he's starting to get into this character where he's like the hothead. And you see him kind of getting into it. I think he's going to grow. So I might disagree with you there.
So then they start making their announcements, right? First thing they announce, your boy, once again, Hangman, Adam Page. And what I think confused some people with this was they said Hangman Adam Page, for putting his hands on the ref, has been suspended without pay from the elite. They didn't say AEW. They're like as if it's almost as if he's getting more pay for being a part of the elite.
I think one of the broadcasters actually said something. You got paid to be in the elite?
Right, yeah. And I was like, what? That was a little bit weird.
Not with their YouTube views. I'll tell you that much. Not that we should talk, but
yeah, right, exactly. But we're giving them a good run for their money.
Not yet. We gotta get Adam Cole to die on our show first.
No, I'm talking currently. So basically,
well, it's a Dark Order.
Yeah, so they're not even on it and not making money. There goes the joke. So basically, so you have Kenny Omega is mentioned, and as we all know, he's dealing with an illness that's really bad. I'm not going to even try to pronounce it right now, but
diverticulitis.
There you go. And
Brock Lesnar had it. That one time.
Yeah. Yes. And
I wanted to make a joke about his sexual exploits with Vincent Kennedy McMahon, but I held my tongue, Vladdy. I figured, you know what? We don't have to go down that rabbit hole. You know what I mean?
Who are these two people you're talking about?
Old history, son. Anyway.
So they go and mention Kenny, and Nicholas and Matthew, quote unquote, fire him from the elite. Actually, fire him. So they kick him out of their group. Yeah. After this happens, cue Eddie Kingston's music. They already prefaced this by having some grief backstage recently. Eddie Kingston coming off hot off of defeating Bryan Danielson a second time, comes out there and is going to step up to the boss. He doesn't care what he's wearing about a dress code. He throws money into Nicholas's face to pay the fine because he's not adhering to it. Sort of humorous. And then as this is going on and they're about to throw down, all of a sudden cue some new music here where
it was not new. You're just a noob.
Yeah, I'm saying
you're just a noob. You're just a New Japan noob.
For AEW, this is new to their show, right?
Yeah, but the coin drop is pretty much known. Every time he's made an entrance, that's been his theme. Same one, but go ahead.
Right. So enter Okada. Okada comes to the ring. Yeah. Okada comes to the ring, stands next to Eddie, acts as if they're going to go and take on the Bucks. Lo and behold, Okada turns heel, hits him with the Rainmaker, and now the Bucks once again have one of their friends being the main point of attention for their little triad here. So cookie cutter once again. Here's Okada with the EVPs, and this is what we're starting up again, but they're the EVPs this time, right? So this is what happened, and I think this was somewhat surprising to many AEW fans because I think he's mainly has been associated as being a baby face for the most part, right?
Mostly. I mean, when he first joined Chaos, he was a heel, but yeah, he wanted to be a baby.
So to start off clean here in AEW, automatically is a bit of a heel, showing heelish tactics, signaling to Kingston that he wants his titles. I'm certain he's going to win them. They're going to start gathering gold in there, and this was his sort of introduction, really, to many American fans. I mean, honestly, I don't know how many people actually watch New Japan from the United States. What percentage of that is, say, AEW's fan base, say 700 to 900,000 people a week? And now here's the introduction, which, honestly, it was a good intro to him. He's got a unique look. You could tell that he can handle himself in the ring. Although I'll say this, maybe it's blasphemy, but what I've seen of him, especially against Kenny Omega, I was more impressed with Omega than I was with him. That's just my opinion. Just from what I saw. But, okay, I know he's got talent, and especially when he works with other guys like Danielson and Ospreay, et cetera, et cetera. Now there's some pieces there for him to work with. I'm sure they can put on some clinics. So that's cool. I'm looking forward to that. I'm open-minded with that for sure. So there you go. You have the rise of the EVPs with their growing group here. So
I love
what
it.
are your thoughts?
I love it. I 100% love it. First of all, you know, it's not the same Nick and Matt Jackson. I completely disagree. They do have a friend there that they have had a previous relationship for their time in New Japan Pro Wrestling, but this was not an introduction to Kazuchika Okada to the AEW fan base. I disagree with that too. He's made a number of appearances leading up to both Forbidden Doors, and he has wrestled in front of them. Also, there's the legend of Kazuchika Okada. There's not many Japanese wrestlers that you hear about overseas the way you do about Kazuchika Okada. Maybe since Chano, from back when Eric Bischoff brought him in with the, you know, and he eventually joined the NWO. So there was just these legends of these people, and he was the most recent one. I mean, he carried the New Japan brand longer than just about anybody outside of Hinoki. So, you know, Okada was the man for a very long time there, and he had banger after banger, and he had an air about it. The fact that he became a heel, I don't think many people saw coming at all until Eddie Kingston moved right ahead of him. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. And it kind of makes sense. They're firing Kenny. The best part about this, folks, the legend of Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada. That's going to happen on American television, American pay-per-view, because guess what? Okada, they wouldn't have fired Kenny like that if he wasn't coming back.
Right.
So, and by the way, this also gives Kenny even more time to heal some possible wounds because he hadn't really been back yet. We still don't know if Kenny Omega is ever going to be the same Kenny Omega again. We don't know. He doesn't know. He's said that in several interviews. But
you know
the fact
he might want to take this time to even like sort of reassess his style. You know, he's got to get his health in order. And if this is a little bit more of a long game, since this is a new contract and stuff like that, you know, he's got some stories to tell still if he's healthy enough to get over this disease. And now he's got the players on American soil, bigger audience, and they can really do something special if this all works out. But getting back to one of the things that you were saying, I don't think they would have mentioned him if he's not going to be back within a year.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think they would say, still get better, Kenny, what have you. They're burying him, saying that he's not showing up for his dates. It was great. And I love this new version of Nick and Matt Jackson. I really do. I think it's entertaining. The way they were mocking Tony Khan, which you mentioned earlier, was hilarious. You also had other things happening with everything that they got going on. They're using this little power, their power stroke, if you want to call it that, as being EVPs. They may very well win the tag team titles. I'm not even sure if they're going to be in the tournament. I don't even know if they're going to be in the tournament. They might not.
Mark that down. They are winning this tournament. I feel very strongly about that. It's going to be Okada having a bunch of gold, and it's going to be them with the gold.
But how can you put them over and not have the Undisputed Kingdom over too? You can't have two dominant jerk-off factions that all love each other.
Oh well, that's definitely going to be an issue that they are going to go and have to cross.
Maybe you never know. Tony Book's so friggin' weird, man. You go, you know, we're blowing. I love this episode, but at the end of the day, I want to see it long term. But it looks like they're planting seeds for some really good stuff, which is the good part.
Right. Even with the Undisputed Kingdom, like as far as the tag teams, like look at their tag team that's in there. It doesn't compare to the Bucks.
No, they just got beat. They just looked really weak against Swerve and Samoa Joe.
Oh yeah. They got played like
Swerve
crazy.
beat him by himself, essentially. Yeah, it was.
They both beat him by himself, and that was a weird tag team match because they didn't even make a tag. Basically, they just kept on going into the ring together and getting beat up by the one guy. So the ref's like, "Okay, whatever."
It was great, but it doesn't make him look too good, to be honest with you. And you're trying to get this, what most people consider a mid-carder faction. You're going to try to make into a main event.
Swerve totally alluded to that.
Swerve on the mic was fantastic too.
Yeah,
Called him Doctor. What do you call him, Dr. Claw?
Yeah, Dr. Claw, and he's like, with whatever you got going on here, like he doesn't even know how to describe it. That's what I'm saying. He totally mocked them.
Whatever this is, whatever this is.
Yeah, I was like, that was great.
Swerve's gotten so much better on the mic too. He didn't enunciate 100%. I would say about a year and a half ago. And now he's saying, because he always said really awesome stuff, but now his delivery on the mic is a lot better, and to see this organic thing grow has been incredible to see. And he's a full blown babyface now because he said he's not going to.
Absolutely.
So
that last night's show was definitely a line in the sand. He just crossed into babyface territory. Like I totally love the fact that they're using Nana as like his hype man, dancing down the ramp, getting in the ring with him, building up the the energy in the room. Then he's yelling out whose house, and he's orchestrating it before Swerve takes the mic. Like, this is perfect what they're doing with Nana and Swerve, man.
usually you'd see the manager, the kind of the heel manager, turn on the babyface at this point.
Yeah.
But he's such a good hype man. It's part of Swerve's thing is having him come out and do that.
Yeah.
It really is.
Watch when they cut to the crowd shots. The crowd wants to partake with this. You can't, like, they cannot take that away from him. Get rid of the other three jerk off heels in this mogul.
They are not. First of all, Brian Cage is an incredible wrestler, so I wouldn't call him a jerk off. I wouldn't call him incredible. And also, how do they tie to Swerve? How many big men that look like Brian Cage do the things he does in the ring?
Again, you like him, I don't. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and bicker about Cage. It's not worth my time, honestly. Like, I'm just saying, like, I'm not overly impressed with him. I see what he does. Like, I get him, but it's not like some guy who I'm like, oh, I got to root for this guy ever. It's like he's never, like, part of it.
I just wouldn't call him a jerk off. I don't think he's a ham and egger, is my point. You're making him sound like he's fucking...
I'm saying compared
like he's in the Undisputed Kingdom.
What I'm saying is, like, compared to what Swerve is going to be, those three guys are anchors to Swerve and Nana. They got to cut them loose. They should turn
on him. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I don't think he should be. They haven't really associated either, so I'm with you. But I just, Brian Cage is. I think again with that even that Hook match, I thought he did an incredible job because he's carrying Hook there for most of that.
Well, here's what Cage does well. When he wrestles a smaller opponent, he knows how to make them look good, and I give him the credit for that. But he's just not my thing, like. It is what it is, but
I just wanted to give Brian Cage credit because I think he's great.
That's great.
Call me Mr. Cage. Just kidding.
So,
not Nicolas Cage.
But yeah, like in regards to what happened there with Hook, babyface turn, Samoa Joe playing it down the middle, and then Undisputed Kingdom comes out, and they're basically. Putting Wardlow over at that point,
Yeah, and look, Wardlow. I think he's wrestling for the championship next Wednesday. It's too quick. I certainly don't think he's beating Samoa Joe in that instance. But we'll see what happens. The way they set it up, it's almost like they backed themselves into a little bit of a corner where you almost have to give Wardlow the championship so him and Adam Cole could have that beef. But neither one of those two guys should be world champion right now. No,
I leave it on Joe until Ospreay or Okada or like someone Danielson, God forbid, is ready.
Yeah, I mean,
give
Swerve,
it to one of those guys.
I think Swerve should probably win it at some point, just because you got to catch this lightning in a bottle. So I think Swerve will be there. He'll probably be the one that beats Samoa Joe eventually. But then I don't know how long of a run he's going to have. But I think that he'll lose it to somebody like an Okada. I don't know about an Okada. I think Okada is going to be this Continental Champion for a little bit, and then he's going to feud with Kenny when he comes back.
I remember hearing something like Dusty Rhodes said, something about a baby face where the money's in the chase. And they could do this really well with Swerve, man. It's very similar to what Cody's doing in his story, and it's ironic in ways, I wouldn't say take it to those lengths where it's like a 2-year thing for Swerve by any means. I'd say within this year, maybe it's in England at Wembley. Maybe it's the pay-per-view afterwards, something, but within the year, definitely. But they got to basically, he's definitely got to go and beat Joe. And I can't really see. Here's my fear about this. I don't want him like beating Joe, and then all of a sudden he's going against Ospreay, and Ospreay gets it. I don't want it I don't want them knocking him down. And I'm trying to figure, unless it's actually, a returning MJF who's a heel, that makes sense. So that could be a way to like get it on Swerve, and now, he's got to outsmart MJF, and they have a little bit of a history as well, even during the whole Devil thing. So.
No, I mean, again, it's just you love to see this organic feel, and just want to the organic rise of something like this. And Swerve is an incredible wrestler. He's great in the ring. He's very good on the mic at this particular point in time, if not great. I don't know if he's great yet, but he's very, very good on the mic. And he has his own style, and he's built his own brand, and it's been incredible to see. So I'm super happy about that. I'm with you. I wouldn't want Swerve just to be a transitional champion if he gets it.
Yeah. I want him to have like a nice chase at it, and then have a good run where it's maybe 6 to 8 months to a year, whatever is justifiable. All hinges on how well he's doing. But
and it also depends on how he's booked. Like, he's gonna have to you're gonna have to keep him involved in real major storylines, and maybe it could be a feud with MJF coming back.
Yeah. One of the things I really I liked about his promo last night, they cut to a shot, so to some like what you call it, fan reaction shots, doing the Who's House and Swerve's House thing. There was one guy that they went and got the camera on. He looked like he could have been like an Harley Davidson or like a motorcycle club or something, man. Like I would have never imagined seeing this dude yelling out Swerve's House. And I'm like, this is great, man. This is like, people are like really accepting him, and this is like something you cannot put in a bottle at this point. You got to just go and run with this, Tony Khan.
Yeah,
keep Nana with him. It's really, they have a lot of promise with this build up with him.
Yeah, again, like I said before, they had a really good build to this pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. And you saw so many seeds planted at this past night. You got Jay White and Darby Allin. I'm super excited about that. I'm glad Jay White finally came out, and he was pretty much a heel in it. He was getting booed a lot. He did drop Atlanta like 5 times, try to get some pops, it seems. But you see Jay White comes out and kind of tries to make fun of Darby for needing Sting, and he's a little puppy and all that kind of stuff. Actually bringing up the fact that he took that bump. But Darby Allin took a lot of heat this past week. Jonathan Coachman, because who gives a fuck what he thinks? But Jonathan Coachman tweeted, as many other wrestling fans were tweeting, saying that Darby Allin's bump is irresponsible and Tony Khan shouldn't let him do it. Blah, da, 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 da. And look, Darby Allin does a lot of stupid, crazy shit. Always did. Seemingly always will. He's about to climb Mount Everest. But I don't think everyone saying that he shouldn't do it is going to help. Sure, he's had some of the biggest names in the history of the business tell him he needs to calm down. He doesn't care. It's not how he lives. So, and I don't think we should tell anyone how to do their business. The only thing is you worry about is him encouraging other people to do it. But I have a question for you. You and I.
No, I got see with that. That's where I disagree. Here's what we got to worry about. This is your employee, and he did a bump where he could easily paralyze himself. And he's looking to up the ante pretty quickly as he goes. So at what point, there's gonna be a point where you're gonna have to be like, you know what, Darby, you're gonna die if you do this on our broadcast, and we really don't want that. We want you to live a long life. We don't want you to die on period, but let alone during a show. You know, like it's just not a good. It's just not human. It's not good business. And again, this is what happens when you allow talent to go unbridled. That's my 2 cents with that, man. It's not even just other people replicating it. He's upping the ante, and he keeps on raising the bar on himself, and it's at a speed where it's like, whoa, when I saw that bump, if he hit those chairs in any sort of way, he could have really done some damage to himself there.
He did do damage to himself. I don't know how many stitches and gash in his...
Yeah. But I'm talking like skeletal versus,
Oh, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, the cuts and stuff from the glass itself.
Did you feel the same way when we saw Mick Foley do what he did? Did you feel the same way when New Jack used to do it, or anybody else in ECW? I don't remember you being so. Were you critical of that at the time? When
I saw Mick Foley's, I thought that was a game changer for me. And I was like almost horrified the first one or two times I saw it. And I didn't see it live. I saw it like afterward, and that I was like, holy shit! Like he could have died. Like, you know. So is it incredible? Does it live in the lore of wrestling? Yeah, he walked away from it. But we're getting to a point with, especially Darby, he's doing stuff where eventually they're going to have to say, no, Darby, we're not going to even let you go out tonight if you don't play by these rules. Sorry. Like, they got to draw a line in their own sand there.
Well, there's a slippery slope. So there we go. Because, I mean, again, you know, New Jack was, I know you didn't love New Jack. I mean, he wasn't the best person in the world, I guess. But it's just funny to me. I see a lot of people that are reacting, not you, obviously. If you were already turned off by that kind of thing, that's awesome. But there's a lot of people who hold Nick Foley in this great esteem, and that bump is one of the biggest reasons as to why his legend grew. Right or wrong, that's one of the reasons. And in fact, it would probably that or the Mr. Sacco bit are the two things he's most known for.
Ironically enough.
Yeah. Thank God for Mr. Sacco, so he had to stop jumping off of crazy things, you know. But it just seems like I don't think people got soft, but the idea here is that bump was ridiculous. Though you didn't have to do glass and chairs. You could have done a table, and it would have been you would have been okay with a table, right?
I would say, yeah, it's like it's safer, if you will. He's done it more times, okay, and it's like at least there's more like staggered breaking his fall, if you will. But yeah, this thing, man, he's starting to get into his own category where, and I gotta say this, I admire Darby.
I love him, love him to death.
He's a gutsy guy, and he's looking to entertain and push his own boundaries. I get it. However, I don't want to see him die.
I agree with you, and I hope he's okay. And I really hope he's going to be okay up in Mount Everest. It's not that is not something that is easy to do for all of you. I'm sure you
don't worry about this guy. Yeah, it's like not only is he doing these crazy bumps, he's like, I'm going to go climb Everest, and it's like,
yeah, he's a different cat, man, and he's living his life by his own rules. And far be it for me to tell him how to live his life. Now you got a different idea, which is a good one. That Tony needs to protect his investment. It's one of his biggest stars. I don't need you dying. I don't need to have my company known as the company that let you kill yourself. In fact, in my moment of the valley, I even said Darby seemingly tried to commit suicide because it was the most ridiculous bump you could ever see. But it is on our podcast on Spotify, of course, Apple, Amazon Music, anywhere you get your best and most favorite podcasts, you will find High Spots and Cheap Pops, Vladi Dottie, Silicon Steve Valley. Wow. And AEW is cooking with grease. Other great things that happen in this show. We go back to Jay White. Jay White and Darby Allin had a really good promo battle setting up their match, and where you would assume, you don't have to write him off TV, though, because he's climbing Mount Everest. He told everybody he's climbing Mount Everest. So it's not like you have to write him off TV so he can go climb Mount Everest. But you do think that the Bullet Club Gold will give him a little bit of a beatdown or something might happen. But I see Jay White winning that, and hopefully Jay White starts actually being in the singles division again, because he's one of your top stars that you haven't even built up yet. And to Darby, Darby echoed what you had said. What have you done since you got here?
And when he said it, I was like, you know what? He's right. And it's unfortunate. It was Darby's truth, and I got to say, I agreed with it.
I think everyone agrees with it. I mean, you even mentioned it.
Yeah.
I've been a little bit happier with it because the fact is he did have a pay-per-view main event when he just walked into the company. And he was given a spotlight because that's what Tony does. He always, I got a big free agent. Let me work him against the champion and have him lose all his momentum. So it's something that Tony Khan has done pretty consistently. Hopefully he doesn't do this here with Okada, which I think he won't. I think he's going to be the one that takes out Kingston. And then, Mercedes Moné will be there next week in Boston. So it's just an incredible dynamo. Again, I'm just so pumped up and positive, and I'm really optimistic about where AEW is heading compared to where we were feeling about it 2 months ago. So a lot of things can change, and that's how the wrestling business is, and so you got to love it. But Jay White and Darby Allin setting up their match for next week. Jay White coming back more as a heel, which I love. What else we got going on? I think you're going to see the return of Juice Robinson, and both of them will take Darby out. Oh, I would love that. I miss Juice.
My thing. That's my thing because he sort of asked that the young guns don't get involved, right? Like he's like just me and you.
I think he meant just. I think he said everybody, didn't he? Just me and you solo. I think he said. Was it or just? Did he specifically just say the guns?
Or yeah, maybe everybody because that was after Jay White was offering him a chance of being into the Bang Bang Scissor Gang as Darby Scissorhands.
He does kind of look like Edward Scissorhands, his like cousin or something. Very emo, little dork. Just kidding. Love Darby Allin. I thought it was a really fun segment with two of my favorite wrestlers. So that again, another one. Again, you talked about the Samoa Joe Swerve and the Samoa Joe Swerve and Adam Cole Wardlow thing. You have that situation where Wardlow and Samoa Joe facing off next week in Boston. Yep. So you got that.
I got to bring up real quick the Jericho cutting into the Hook.
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. Yeah, I mean, holy cow. Oh, my God, who's relevant? Who can I leech off of now?
Exactly. How obvious is this now, man? And you know what? Like, you texted me about Hook and not necessarily complimenting his, like, style or, like, his match, right?
He's goofy. He's goofy in the ring. I'm sorry. He's just, I don't.
To me, I think he's green, but there's certain things that he does that I'm like, he keeps on doing this over the years. He's going to get smoother with it. His matches will improve. It's almost like Cena or like an Orton or something. When I first saw them, I wasn't crazy about him. Like, this guy will never get over with me. And now I have like the utmost respect for John Cena and like Randy Orton. So
100%.
You know, so 100%. That's where I so that's kind of like where I see Hook. And what I gotta say is when I watched him against Cage and Cage played it beautifully, right? The crowd reaction of Hook.
Called him a jerk off before.
I did. I'm not it's a term. I'm sure he'll get over it, right? So I'm watching how
avid
Hook
listener.
is.
He's a big avid listener of our show, just for the record.
I'm sure he is. So as I'm watching Hook basically starting to get the upper hand, the crowd is reacting to him nicely. And this is also building up off of what he did against Samoa Joe. So they're sort of carrying on that. I had a really, I knew Hook was going to win. They had a couple good sort of ECW type spots. And again, Jericho in this promo, he's like connecting himself to Taz. Like all of a sudden, the Lionheart Chris Jericho was like buddies with Taz. I watched ECW back then. They were not buddies. There was like no like allegiance or whatever.
Nobody was buddies with Taz back in the day in ECW. He didn't have any friends. Yeah. Maybe he was friends with him backstage. Is that what he was alluding to? I don't know. He was never on camera. And even when they both rendezvoused in WWE, I don't think they ever really had much of a program there. They might have had a program. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And so I'm like, he's just reaching for whatever. And again, it's like the younger dude who's up and coming. Hey, I'll be your mentor, man. And then what happens? Cage and his buddies from the Mogul Embassy show up, and wouldn't you know it, here comes Jericho, and with his bat, they clear the ring. There's all of a sudden this respect, and they're ending the segment with Jericho's music and the crowd singing Judas. He totally stole Hook's thunder from that moment and just didn't allow him to even get like one match away from Joe. This crazy megalomaniac. I swear.
Well, I think Jericho thinks he's helping put somebody over. I really do. I think Jericho feels like he is doing Hook a favor. But the reality is Jericho's not doing any favors anymore. He's just not. He's not the same. His last couple of reinventions haven't really panned out that well. He has lost his magic touch, whatever the case may be. But Jericho, was his wife at January 6th? Yeah.
Yes.
Doing shots with Jenny Thomas. Anyway, Jericho has been, this is kind of consistent. And check out our video if anyone wants to on YouTube. We have a video called Booked with Jericho. Great little parody we did. And it's the same exact thing. And now it's a parody we wrote 8 or 9 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the same exact thing. Ricky Starks, was it Adam Cole or Ricky Starks? Sammy Guevara, MJF. The list goes on and on and on. But the thing is that he's always going to have a younger guy to work with because he's so fucking old. He's in his 50s now. But I think Jericho needs to start winding it down a little bit. He doesn't deserve to be on TV every week anymore. That's the thing. With this roster that they have and the people that they have in place, Chris Jericho is not a top 20 star there right now. He's just not.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think anyway.
I completely agree. And after I saw that main event last night, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, Jericho just lost and went down a bunch of spots. All of a sudden with Okada being there and
Ospreay.
And it's like,
we got to talk about the Will by God Ospreay. Woo. But we'll get into it next.
Okay, so so I was thinking that. I'm like, man, Jericho's like going to be scrapping to get on Rampage pretty soon. He's like the new Jeff Jarrett.
It's kind of like that, yeah. But Jericho's still a prominent way. The way he probably connived his way into getting on the pay-per-view in that 8-man, whatever the hell it was. A match that didn't need to happen, that many people thought was a waste of time, and other matches could have had more time because of it. But unfortunately, they had to do the Denny's All-American Scrambled Breakfast, whatever the hell the match was called. Yeah. Denny's All-Star Scrambled Breakfast. So funny. Either way, the fact remains is that Jericho, you see him. He's not doing anything. And I said this in my Revolution review. Jericho's not doing anything different than anybody else in his position has ever done before. Ric Flair's done it. Hogan's done it. A lot of guys that work into their 50s, they try to hang on in every little bit they can. So how do they hang on? They try to get to a younger crowd. And maybe they book themselves in a higher position than they deserve because they have the influence and the political influence backstage. I mean, nobody has Tony Khan's ear probably more than Chris Jericho outside of maybe the EVPs. And that might not even be the case. So Jericho has a lot of influence, and he's using his influence to stay relevant. That's the reality. And it's...
And Tony Khan's going to have to make a business decision pretty soon because he can't be bumping certain talent, like even younger guys here, like Hook, Kyle Fletcher. Like these are the kind of guys you got to start spotlighting on, like Dynamite versus Jericho. Like nobody's tuning in at this point in my moment.
How about Miro?
This moment in time, yeah, Miro's another one. Like they should give Jericho and Miro just Rampage. Let them do their own thing on there at this point.
What was the point of getting Miro, together? By the way? I still don't understand what the point was. Like, you're not going to use him at all just because he won't job to somebody?
Yeah, it's like, well, we brought him in to be Kip Sabian's right-hand man, best man at his wedding. Remember that?
That was bad. And weddings in general in professional wrestling are bad.
Shitty.
They're stupid.
Yeah.
You had the one that wasn't terrible was the one with Bryan Danielson and AJ Lee. That was kind of funny. Punk made an appearance. Vince McMahon made an appearance. It was kind of funny.
Who?
Brock Lesnar.
He said his... I'm not sure.
Chris Benoit.
Dude, I don't know what you're discussing. You're like referencing right now.
Chris Benoit was a Canadian singer back in the 1970s. Not many people know about it.
Oh. Is he like a Gordon Lightfoot?
Yes. Incredible job by just AEW really pushing into arguably one of their biggest dynamites of the year coming up at Big Business. Obviously, we know Sasha Banks is coming, Mercedes Moné, now known as Mercedes Moné. She's going to be showing up. And you also have Toni Storm continuing to do some phenomenal character work. Everything she has going on. That was the thing I love to see.
We got to talk about the main event.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I want to talk about. Will by God Ospreay. Just by his being part of AEW on a weekly basis and seeing those kind of matches. I mean, he put 2 banger matches on in a row.
Yep.
And that's just what he does. I always will love Kenny Omega, but Will Ospreay, he used to just be a high flyer. He was like a Ricochet. But he turned heel. He got more, and working in Japan, you have to work stiff. Working in Japan, you have to work snug. You have to be able to have a different kind of offense if you're going to be a major player. If not, you're going to stay in the junior division, which is what he did for quite a while when he was just the high flyer. But he turned heel and he became this hybrid where he's doing more striking moves, and even his aerial stuff makes sense that he does it. And Will Ospreay is now on American television, and I don't know if he's the best in terms of telling a story and ring psychology and all that, but in terms of what they do in the ring and how it looks and how he takes bumps and the vast maneuvers he has, Will Ospreay, no one can do what he does. Just that's the reality. He's absolutely on another level than anybody else. And now we're going to get him on American TV. We saw it in a banger match with Takeshi, which many people are calling the match of the year. Many people calling it the pay-per-view of the year, too, which is another thing that people are saying about AEW. So a lot of momentum being picked up. And then Will Ospreay again, coming back on Wednesday with last night with Kyle Fletcher. Again, there's not. I'm a big Will Ospreay fan, but now that we're going to see him every week, it's going to be incredible. And just another shining spot. I don't know how long he's going to be in the Callis family, but again, I'm absolutely in love with Will Ospreay, and I covered him when he went to the G1 a couple of years ago. I covered the G1 where he wrestled, I believe, Okada in the finals, and he wound up losing, unfortunately. But because Will Ospreay was my pick, but I've known Will Ospreay for a while, and the evolution of his in-ring ability has been to the point where I think he is the best bell to bell. Maybe he has to work on some of the psychology and maybe get a little bit more of a Western style because he is essentially born and bred in UK and of course New Japan. So maybe that style might not translate in America, but hell, I think it does, and I think he's an incredible talent.
Yeah, man. Honestly, like after watching that match, first note I put down after watching it, Ospreay is the best in the world. My opinion.
Right, bruv.
Like I'm really impressed with him, man. He is the perfect combination of speed, agility, flexibility, the way he's able to go and hit roundhouse kicks, standing behind the guy basically, and able to whip his foot around and hit him in the face still.
Yeah.
Impressive. I don't see other guys doing that like that. His timing, impeccable. His strength for that guy, he's got some built to him too.
And he put on some weight too. He really, in his late 20s, he really came into his own as being one of the best, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's just amazing. And honestly, Kyle Fletcher is on his way as well. Like, the kid is tremendous, and he's a great talent. And a little bit of an appearance change with him. Dyed the hair blonde, cut, basically. Yeah, he went from 90s haircut guy to just like early
Flock of
Sting.
seagulls, homie.
Yeah. So, but he and Ospreay just had a beautiful match. And then after Ospreay wins, pins him, all of a sudden cue the American Dragons music, and here comes Bryan Danielson. They don't really show any interaction, but they're alluding to a match here at Dynasty. Now, you alluded to this before, and it's kind of like, all right, what Tony Khan does, he's got the EVPs and he's got the Undisputed Kingdom. And here with this match, it's obvious to me the fans want Ospreay to be a babyface. And he's playing it well as a babyface, by the way.
Yeah. In fact, when Callis got booed last week, he was like, you can tell there's a little bit of a conflict with Ospreay and Callis. And you have to wonder why Callis is making these matches and having everyone fight each other. You have to wonder.
Yeah, I'm assuming there's going to be a split there of some sort. But yeah, again, it's and it's weird because here you have a babyface that's associated with a heel group. Here's Bryan Danielson coming up. He's sort of on his farewell tour, the beginning of it here. He did a babyface thing by respecting Eddie Kingston after losing to him for a second time. So now we have two babyfaces kind of having a match, it seems. And I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I might actually get this next pay-per-view because of that match.
Also, MJF might show back up too. It
There
seems
you
like
go.
there's some MJ. This is a pay-per-view I'm going to get. I didn't pay for this past pay-per-view.
Yep.
Kind of wish I did, but it wasn't a lot of surprises. But you would have liked to have seen maybe Sting's last match, but it was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this next pay-per-view Dynasty is going to be incredible. You'll probably have the tag team championship decided in that match as well.
Yeah.
So I'm 100% with you. Bryan Danielson, though, I mean, the thing about Bryan Danielson, I don't like when someone announces their retirement so much farther in advance.
Yeah.
Because, okay, Bryan Danielson, what are you going to do? You're going to be putting everybody, what is it, the putting everyone over tour? He's lost match after match after match. He's losing more than Brock Lesnar has lost. You know?
Is that just a random name you keep on throwing my
Country
way?
Western star from the 1960s.
Kind of like Glenn Campbell?
Exactly. In fact, he was in Glenn Campbell's backup band.
Holy shit.
Glenn Campbell, Brock Lesnar, and Chris Benoit. Before Chris Benoit went on his own and became a big 70s singer-songwriter. Anyway, so the reality is, though, is that we know Danielson is going to put over Will Ospreay. We know he's putting over Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
We know it for a fact. So that's why it takes a little bit away from that moment. I get it. It's Bryan Danielson. I get it. But the guy hasn't won. And look, I know he has great match after great match after great match, but the guy hasn't won. And he's kind of, it's not as exciting as it was. Because he's losing to Will Ospreay too.
Yeah.
So the booking of Bryan Danielson, despite the best matches I've ever seen him have been in AEW. Despite that, the booking has been atrocious with Bryan Danielson. Here's a look at the 2021 free agents that they signed. There you have Swerve, Christian. And if I told you in 2021, out of these 5 names, who's going to be the best free agents, and you rank them, you have Swerve, Christian, Adam Cole, CM Punk, and Bryan Danielson. Christian and Swerve have completely outperformed everybody else. And they were easily a distant 4th and 5th when they were an afterthought by the time All Out happened, when Adam Cole showed up and Bryan Danielson showed up right after CM Punk showed up a couple weeks prior. They were afterthoughts. And now look where they are in the company. Meanwhile, Danielson's kind of just that old guy who's putting people over. Yippee. Adam Cole can't stay healthy. And CM Punk is in WWE. So it's amazing to me. You never know this friggin' business, what can happen, because nobody would pick at those 5 lists that Swerve and Christian would be the 2 most impactful people. And that's exactly where we're at. So give it up for those 2 guys.
Give it up to them. And also, it's a testament to the fans. They liked and or hated something so much that you had to go and base a good portion of each of these shows around those 2 guys. And I'm happy about that. Those are 2 of my favorite guys that when they come on the screen, you know what? I'm not hitting the fast forward button. I want to see what's going on here. It's not a Sky Blue match.
No Sky Blue last night. She was in the background. She was in the background.
They had to dangle her.
You hate to say it, but again, the weakest part of the show was easily the Statlander Riho match. Even though the match was fairly decent, wasn't a bad match. Rio performed well. But they keep on kind of jerking with a semi kind of vibe with this whole Stokely Hathaway thing, Willow, Statlander. Neither one of them like his ways. Why are they with him? We still don't understand that.
Why does he want to turn them heel?
I mean, we see it. Okay, by the way, Chris Statlander is a dumb babyface. You should have taken the chain and knocked that little Japanese girl out. Period. We know that. Dumb babyfaces. That's what dumb babyfaces do. And they lose.
I don't know who she pissed off, but what they're doing with her, it's a crime.
No, I think they're trying to get Willow Nightingale over as well. They're trying to tell a story, but it's just not doing a very good job. This isn't a very compelling storyline. One of them eventually is going to turn heel on the other one. We know that, and then they're going to be a heel with Stokely Hathaway. You don't know if it's Willow or Statlander at this particular point in time.
Right.
Neither one of them, I think, would. You never know, though, man. I was going to say neither one of them seemed to me would be a great heel, But you never know. Someone changes into a heel, it opens up a whole new level. And anyone heard of The Rock before?
Yeah, I've heard of him actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's come back. It's
he's
like his
big.
'98 version.
Monster star. He was in a movie. He was in a few movies. Monster star. Anyway, The Rock, when he turned heel, that's when everything started to pop for him. That's when the magic happened. So who knows? I certainly don't think Willow Nightingale nor Chris Statlander are The Rock, but it certainly can make their character better, and they can actually be funny because they need really good heels as in their women's division, in my view.
But both of those ladies are very strong baby faces, and the division's already weak. So why not play to your team's strengths here, and let them be who they are? Statlander's championship material. Like, I get it. You put the belt on Julia Hart. What is she really doing other than, singing Johnny Cash at the end of one of the segments?
She's being spooky. Okay?
She's being spooky. So spooky. So, like, again, I just think that they are going a long way to go and change something that isn't broken.
Either way, I just think this story is not compelling. And so that's the big key. That's the reality of it. And you hate it because you want their women's division to get better. But when they give their women's division time, it's not booked right. Mm-hmm. Or it's not, the stories aren't being told. I mean, Jesus Christ, if it wasn't for Toni Storm, there wouldn't be anything going on in this women's division right now. She's brilliant, though. Holy cow. Wow.
The Tony Awards are coming.
I cannot wait. They're almost as prestigious as the Vladis. But
yeah, they're very close. And my lawyers did approach her, and we were on the same page. There was
Tony with an eye, so we don't get sued.
Yeah.
Just and her delivery on the thing she's saying now. I mean, I don't know where she came up with this character or how it did, and she stays in character too. She's one of these wrestlers that's not going to give an interview anymore without staying in character, like in MJF, and then Eddie Kingston does that as well. I like that. Yeah. I kind of like when wrestlers do that. Matt Hardy was doing that when he was being broken, Matt Hardy. So I like when that happens. So Toni Storm, kudos to her. She's literally putting this women's division on her back. Now, obviously, they got some injuries. Jamie Hayter's still hurt. I don't know what's going on with Britt Baker. No idea. She hurt. She's doing a movie. I have no idea. I know she's apparently banging Swerve Strickland because he has her cell phone in his pocket. That was a good line.
Yeah, he threw that on the table, and Dr. Claude had no idea what to do.
I'm glad you a manager with whatever you got going on over here. They just shave his head, too. It'll be just like what Vince wanted to do with him.
It's incredible how this has played out, and honestly, I'm not impressed with the group. Like,
I'm not either.
I really just hope MJF comes back and destroys them.
It just was never going to be a main event crew. It's never going to be a top 4 horseman type faction, a DX type faction. And I don't want to say NWO because it's whole different thing. But
for the love of God, Kyle O'Reilly shows up again. He looks like he's ready to push a mop around or a broom around. He's just happy to be there. And
you don't like his hair. That's your only problem. He came back with a big mop top. What is that?
Well, even like the shirt he was wearing, I'm like, is this going to go mop around the floors or something?
He's NXT mid-carder.
But the point being is he doesn't even want to join them. He's like, He's like,
you guys are lame.
Paths. Yeah, he's like, you guys suck.
Haven't we done this like 3 other times? Do we need to do this again? Get the band back together. This is like the third semblance of the NWO when they came back in silver. It was terrible.
Here's a trivia question for you. And it's NXT, so... I'm
not going to know it. I don't watch developmental, bro.
Who did the Undisputed Era premiere against? It was a world champion in NXT, and they sort of basically attacked him.
I think it was Malachi Black, wasn't it?
No.
Or was it Finn Balor?
Nope.
Andrade?
Nope.
Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and it looked good. And then the next thing you know, like, McIntyre was going to the main roster, showed up with Ziggler, and I'm like, he's going to overshadow Ziggler so quickly. This is going to be great.
And now he's one of the biggest names in the company. Legitimately one of the biggest
Yeah,
names. Two WrestleMania championship matches now.
yeah.
Not 3. Did he have more than 1 year? I forget. Did he defend it? No, he lost it prior.
Yeah.
Biggie had it, and then Brock won it against Biggie.
Yeah.
I think it was at day 1. I think it was the day 1 was the name of the pay-per-view. It was like right before Biggie got hurt, a couple months beforehand. So
Poor Biggie.
yeah, I mean, you talk about a guy though. Everything he's saying, he's just grateful that he's alive, and he's grateful he can still walk. He's grateful he can still live a normal life. He's so grateful. If he never wrestles again, that does suck, but he's an inspiration, man. Talk about someone who just get your everything taken away from you, your whole livelihood taken away from you to a certain extent. But I'm sure he has some money saved up, and again, he seems like such one of those genuine people. Everything you hear about him in all his interviews, genuinely kind, awesome human being, and the way he has taken this has been incredible. And then who knows? They said Edge wasn't going to wrestle, and he came back 9 years later. They said Bryan Danielson wasn't going to wrestle. They said Christian wasn't going to wrestle. So you never know what can happen after time. Saraya, there's a lot of people that were said you're done, and then they come back anyway. So you never know, But great dude.
Hope, but hey, I'd be content if he was an announcer. I love what he does on the mic, and he's got great personality too. So.
No, absolutely. It would be again. I thought he did great the way he and Punk played off of each other when they did the press conference. I would love to see something going on.
Oh, here's my critique of the Bucks, and I get you're loving it, and there's a honeymoon phase here going right. There's an eye roll that you just gave me for those that are going to be hearing this on audio.
Well, what do you think about them?
So full of their own shit. They're gross.
Here's my thinking. Everything they're doing is a parody. Everything's is a rib to them. So they did the Tony Khan thing. Okay, I get it. It's funny they're making fun of the boss. After they signed Okada, they actually did the Triple H pointing picture, like, hey, we got our free agent, or he's going to be the champ, sort of, picture. Then I also noticed that when I see the new video entrance, like the new video package for their ring entrance, they're doing a little bit of a parody of a show called Succession from HBO, even to the theme music too. And I'm like, that's interesting. So it's like Succession's about like the high and mighty, the uber elite, if you will. So there's a theme going there. They just signed the Rainmaker, and I can appreciate it. But at some point, when we get past this parody stage of this character development, they're going to have to do something on their own that's original to keep this going and making it good. And let's put it this way: over the past few years, you and I have been pretty impressed, for the most part, with the bloodline, especially Roman, and how he plays off with as almost like a crime boss.
With that said, though, there have been a lot of times where there's been a lull, and we were bored with it and wanted him to lose his title.
Yeah.
So that has been an ebb and flow with that situation.
Yeah. But specifically with Roman, we've sort of compared him to maybe an anti-hero like Walter White, or even a Tony Soprano, especially like this crime boss. But with that, we never hear Roman saying gabagool. You know what I mean? So he's done things pretty originally, and I'm still giving them the benefit of the doubt. They're going to have to cross a bridge eventually and do something that isn't based on friendship or this or that too. And what I'm really hoping we don't see, my feeling is they're going to win the tag team titles. If we start seeing a program with Penta and Ray, I'm going to be like, ugh, this is, again, the California crew just working with themselves.
But if they work with FTR, they've worked with FTR a good amount as well, right? Not as much as those guys, obviously. But
and the thing is, I don't know. I don't I'll believe it when I see it. I don't feel like I'm going to see FTR in that position. And I would take House of Black, man. Even something different like that. Just not their friends. And because if they just start rekindling these old feuds, I'm going to get bored with that quick. If I see them doing a program with OC and Trent, I'm going to be like, oh, So that's all I'm saying right now about them.
Well,
I
they've
get what they're
wrestled
doing,
almost all the tag teams, so they're going to work with people that they have worked with before, whether it be
but
Private Party
specifically
or
feud. Yeah. Like,
but what I want to see is let's have a really concrete, awesome tag team feud. Let's have FTR and Bucks blood feud eventually. And by the way, the Bucks, look, they put FTR over, especially after Cash Wheeler got popped for pistol whipping a guy.
yeah.
They put FTR over at the biggest show outside of WWE in wrestling history. So the Young Bucks, people kill the Young Bucks, but they've done a lot for this business, and they've put a lot of people over, and they have been entertaining for the first time in 2 freaking years. They've been entertaining, maybe 2.5 years. They have been entertaining, and this is a new thing that they've never done before. This new thing, maybe something they should have done a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. But it's something that they are now putting the rubber to the road, which they have not done in a while. They hadn't been on TV too often. And now they're making compelling TV. And now they also have an opportunity with Okada, one of the top workers in the world, at least mostly widely considered one of the top workers in the world. Those of you not familiar with New Japan, okay, he's got to prove something to you, 100%. But they go out, they have a new buddy in the Elite. The Elite's brand new. I think Hangman, we disagree. I mean, we'll get to Hangman in a second. But I love it. I love it that this new, brand new Elite, different vibe, and a completely different style. And again, the Young Bucks have been entertaining. And that's all you want from your top guys. And they hadn't been for so damn long. So I'm super happy. And again, I'm super optimistic where we're going. The other thing is, and I think you and I talk about it, what are they doing with Hangman Adam Page? Now, you think Hangman's coming back to reform with Kenny to tag with against the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
I am of the opinion that they lift his suspension and they bring him back into the Elite. That's what I think is going to happen. Because I think the idea here is going to be Kenny Okada opposed to the Hangman Kenny Bucks match. But I could be wrong because it's not like I wouldn't not want to see that match either. Obviously, I mean, they had one of the greatest tag team matches you'll ever see in your entire life back at Revolution in 2020. So I'm with you there, but I am of the opinion Hangman comes back and is going to be a member of the Elite. He was suspended, not fired. There was a reason for that, I believe. For example.
But yeah, again, they suspended him from the Elite without pay, not AEW. So again, this is a weird gray area. I don't know if somebody flubbed the line.
I think they flubbed the line, yeah.
Okay.
They should have just said you're suspended without pay, period. That's all they had to say.
Yeah.
Because okay, he's not in the Elite, he can still wrestle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And by the way, it was such a flubbed line. And like I said before, I think Tony Schiavone said they get paid to be in the Elite. Like someone said something to make fun of the line. But it was great. They said they had 2 announcements. They come out. They give the 2 announcements. I'm super stoked to where AEW has gone. Because what were we bitching about? No stories, relying too much on the wrestling and putting jabronis on that shouldn't be on television. We had none of that last night.
Yeah.
None of it.
We
had great wrestling on top of it. The matches were good.
What I'd like to see is the Bucks starting to interact on camera, like even in pre-tape stuff with Tony Khan, and start like showing how they manipulate him.
I don't need to see Tony Khan on camera at all. He's awkward and horrible.
That adds to it. Absolutely.
They just keep on clowning him. He just was like,
like they're almost, it's like passive aggressive, like which they could do perfectly.
Which they've been doing,
And Okada's sitting there and like Tony Khan's looking at him with like big puppy dog eyes and is like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Well, you guys got to get that match. Yeah, sure. And it's like
Okada got $13 million for like 3 years or 4 years. What was it?
Yeah, it was $14 million for 3 years. So with that being said, let me put it this way. If Okada's getting that from Tony Khan.
Was he a starting linebacker?
Right. What about there's rumors of Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre both being free agents. How much do you pay them?
I mean, he just paid that for Okada.
Right. Like
this guy just no F's to give about losing money, dude. And by the way, is that a bad thing? He's a dorky ass wrestling fan who has a shitload of money, doesn't care how much money he loses running the company. I honestly could think of a lot worse an owner could do. Remember Vince McMahon?
No, I don't. Actually, I'm not sure who that guy is that you just mentioned.
Exactly. So if Tony doesn't care about losing 30 or 40 or $50 million a year, go ahead. But
so getting back to my question, how much would, if you were Seth Rollins and or Drew McIntyre, if he's getting that, if you were their agent, what would you try to get for them?
I would, if Okada is about $4 million a year, over $4 million a year. I mean, you'd think 5 each, at least, right?
At least, definitely. Those guys can cut promos. I'm not seeing Okada. I'm sure gonna go and cut any Dusty-esque promos. I'm sure, right?
Well, you never heard him, so you wouldn't know, would you? I don't know if he speaks English at all.
Okay, so like they're right there. That's half the game. Those two guys at WWE who are carrying like a world title program together, and especially on the mic, and they could do it in the ring. I mean, I'd probably start asking it with six a year.
The thing is, they're both so important, and I can't see Seth Rollins ever leaving. Me, I'd have to pay him $5 million a year, but I don't see either one of them leaving. I really, really don't. I think they're both really enjoying what they're doing. I think Drew McIntyre / Galloway had a little bit of a higher chance, but just Seth Rollins. I think Seth Rollins is WWE for life. Even though he did allude to looking forward to being a free agent, he did say he's gonna, he's gonna check it out. I think he was on the Stone Cold podcast, and he mentioned that 2024 he's going to be a free agent. It's really close to their contracts expiring. Then I'm surprised they haven't signed him yet. I really am.
I really hope we have confirmation before we have to do picks for WrestleMania.
Now, by the way,
picks, I noticed something's different. Something's missing from the shot.
What?
Where's the purple nurple? What happened there?
It's you have it. You're the owner now of the purple nurple.
Man, what happened at Revolution there, bud?
You got look. If you listen to the Moment in the Valley edition of our last podcast on Spotify and Amazon Music and Apple and everywhere you listen to your podcast, if you listen to it, I gave you plenty of credit. So I don't want to hear your any malarkey. I already gave you credit. If you want your credit, face-to-face, man-to-man, tough titty said to kitty, go back and listen to our last podcast, and then you can hear me blow you verbally.
Oh, man. Yeah, you definitely got to listen to that.
You son of a gun.
Hey, man, it was a good comeback by a good old Vladdy Dottie, and he looked into his crystal ball and picked Tony Khan's brain, and there we go.
Well, you were right. I think you were right in the fact, in the sense that FTR is probably going to face the Blackpool Combat Club in this tournament, and they're going to beat them at some point. That's where, and I think you had alluded to that last week. So,
yeah.
That's a great point, and that was probably where I was like, eh. That one. I thought FTR was going to win because again, they always follow the same formula. Dax has the singles match, he loses, and then they have the tag match and they win. That's happened a couple different times, if not 3 or 4 different times. So that was my feeling on that. I really thought FTR was going to win, and Bryan Danielson was the one I was iffy about, and that's just because I don't. Sometimes I pick because of what I want. And I just really think Danielson has been so squandered in terms of his booking. And I really wanted him to have this title. But hey, if Kazuchika Okada's going to be the one to beat up Yonkers yokel, I can do alliteration too. That Yonkers yokel, if Kazuchika Okada is the one taking that title, no problem. And then you can certainly then set up Will Ospreay Okada. Or you could do a lot of different things. Oh, wow. I mean, Ospreay Okada. And then you're going to have Kenny and in all likelihood, seemingly MJF back in the fold as well within the next 6 to 9 months, in my opinion. Who knows about Kenny? Maybe a little longer. And then you still have Jay White. You still have some. I mean, this right now, they have a bunch of stars that they can do a lot of great things with, but tell stories. And it looks like they're actually like, hey, let's give them a reason to why they fight, opposed to just throwing matches together willy-nilly. Because I'm a matchmaker.
Dude, he when they put the stipulation about the handshake in that match with Danielson and Eddie, that's where I was like, all right, he's losing. This is the feel good tour as he's winding down his, full-time career.
Loser.
And like you said, squander him. Don't squander him. You just did something for Sting in a couple of months. Have the foresight and look at Danielson and say, all right, I have Ospreay on my roster. I have Okada here. May or may not have a returning Omega. Okay, these are three big names. Keep Danielson away from guys like Daniel Garcia. Keep him away from Daddy Magic. Keep him away from the Jeff Jarretts of the world.
Or a rando from New Japan, or a rando from CMLL.
Right. Start making every inch of energy count here. And set him up. And give him a title run, man.
That's what I wanted. That's why I picked Danielson. That's exactly why I picked Danielson. And then Eddie, I thought then they can extend this another further, and then Eddie Kingston could win the rubber match. I didn't think Danielson was going to drop 2 matches to Eddie Kingston in a row. I really did. That's exactly what happened because Danielson loses every match he's in. Every big match he's in now he loses.
Yep.
He hasn't won a big match in months. Okada, Zack Sabre Jr., Kingston twice.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the list goes on and on. The guy doesn't win big matches, and he's arguably the best wrestler in the world, or one of them. So now he's going to wrestle Ospreay, and guess what? He's going to lose to Ospreay.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what. So, and then you're looking at April, and okay, then all you have is, and I think it's I don't know if it's at the end of April or mid-April, but I think it's the end of April. I think it's April 30th. So, in that instance, is it? I don't know. Anyway, it's in April, but look, September is only 4 or 5 months later. Yeah. And you're going to shoehorn him into another championship run like he did Sting. He deserves a lot more than that. Sting, I kind of get.
Yeah,
I think they should have probably won they probably should win the tag titles a little earlier than they did. But Sting, I get. Danielson has been a singles competitor and a damn good one for so long. He deserves a title run. He probably, just like Sting, didn't want a title run, and that's why he hasn't had one. If he was Jericho, he'd have 3 world championships by now.
True.
If Jericho was as good as Danielson, he'd have multiple championships.
Yeah.
But Danielson's a nice guy. And he gets CM Punk fired.
Yeah, it's the nice guy. And, it's just, I don't want it to be so predictable. And he's just putting everybody over. And then it was a blessing to see this, give him something.
That's all we got. Oh, you should be just so happy he's wrestling. Well, fuck all. I want to see a storyline, and I want to see a title run, and I want to believe that he actually has a chance to win. Or he will win. And he loses and loses and loses, and I'm over it. I'm over Bryan Danielson losing.
Yeah, you know what?
Where's my pink robe? I'm getting on here. I want # we want Danielson.
Yeah, we were talking about it last week about you mentioned how you wouldn't mind seeing Samoa Joe drop the title. And I mentioned, I wouldn't necessarily give it to Swerve just yet, but Danielson's somebody who, logically speaking, you could just immediately do a quick program with those two guys and having Danielson win and then carry the world title for a little bit.
And you could have him wrestle. And now that you had Sting retire as a champion, it wouldn't seem far-fetched if he had a championship going into All In and he can retire there, which I think is when he's retiring. He's going to retire. Wembley's going to be his last show. And by the way, is it a possibility that that's where we'll see Ospreay and Danielson? Because you figure Ospreay's going to have a major part in All In. He did last year, and he wasn't even part of the company. I would suggest he might even close the show because Danielson's closing that show. We know that. It's his retirement. Yes. He's a legend. They're gonna.
You're right. Yeah. No, you're 100%.
Does he face Ospreay there? And is there some way you can make it for a championship? That's what I wouldn't mind seeing. There's also I forget his name, the British commentator. There's rumors that he's cleared. McGregor. What is his name? He was in NXT.
Oh yeah,
he kills Danielson every
Nigel
McGuinness. Yeah, Nigel McGuinness. There's a rumor he might come back and wrestle at Wembley, Danielson, and have that be his last match because of their storied history if he's cleared. It's interesting what they're going to do. They have a lot of options, which is good. My only concern is how they're going to book it. Are they going to shoehorn it into it for a championship, and does he retire as a champion as well? Also, Danielson said it's his last year as a full timer, so he might still wrestle here and there. He may go back to WWE as a Legends contract. Who knows what he's going to do? You know, he's still going to make money in the business. It seems like he's taken some ownership in AEW, though, so maybe he stays with the company on a part-time basis.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. I don't know how Danielson is thinking, but I just don't like the fact that we know he's retiring and we see him losing all these matches. It's predictable, like you said.
Yeah, and that's what's sad about it because he's so spectacular. He shouldn't be predictable. So, I don't know. Hopefully Tony Khan hears these gripes and maybe changes his ways a little bit.
Tony Khan's smiling from ear to ear. He's like, you see everyone talking about how good my show was last night? Wrestle Talk gave it 96% out of 100.
Wow.
One of the highest rated shows they ever rated. It was an all-time, I think it was an second all-time high show for AEW for Wrestle Talk. And they're good at that's where they're good. I don't like Wrestle Talk when they're doing the news because they do a lot of clickbait stuff, but their reviews and talking about the actual wrestling is very good. They are nerds though.
Yeah. We're like Brad Pitt and DiCaprio compared to those guys.
Oh yeah. Once upon a time in Hollywood all over again. You're beating up Cliff Lee. You're beating up Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
I'm doing cocaine all over the place. It's amazing. Amazing what we can do. Tony Khan, Tony Khan has got doing something right. AEW, we talked about it. I started feeling the momentum shifting the last month or so leading up to Revolution. They booked it ahead of time. You had all the stories were in place. They weren't shoehorning any matches in there, except for one because Jericho needed to get on the card, but they weren't shoehorning. Yeah, they didn't shoehorn any other matches. I like that, and then to have this new reset, a new look for AEW Dynamite, which I actually like. They brought bloody. They brought back the heel and babyface tunnels.
But what does it matter? Because babyface versus babyface, it's like I don't get it. That was another point. I'm like, if you're bringing back the tunnels, you should have like a line of demarcation in terms of like some of these characters because some of the way you're booking this, some of the ways it's not really making too much sense.
Well, AEW fans too, they always turn on the baby faces and they love the heels. I've never seen it. I've never seen. They're all like me. I mean, I love heels.
Yeah,
and it's like half of them will start cheering for the heel. I mean, shit. Swerve broke into a man's house and almost messed with his kid, and they're cheering him the week after.
Yeah. 100%.
Hangman was as over as a babyface as you're going to see, but not anymore.
Not anymore, man. He's suspended.
Without pay. But a lot of positive things. Dynasty is only a month and a half away, which is great. They're putting out more pay-per-views. And again, Tony Khan doesn't seem to care about any amount of money he spends. I mean, for Kazuchika Okada, how did he explain that to his father? Jesus Christ! I mean,
and you know what? In terms of like doing an impersonation of Tony Khan, when he went and did his like goodbye message in the ring to Sting, it's almost like he sounds like he's going through like puberty. Like his voice range is going up and down a bit, and if you could like sort of
maybe he's a 16-year-old boy body.
That's what it's like the toy, man. Like I'm like, holy shit. Like his voice is going up and down. And then my favorite thing is when he does the Giannis Antetokounmpo thing, like when he's screeching for that. Yeah.
All the hugs.
When
he gave Will Ospreay a hug. I was like, okay, mate. Like after the media scrum. Will Ospreay's a likable guy, though. If you check out the media scrum, he just is a real likable dude. He really is. Gave a lot of props to his missus.
I'm curious to see how much time he has to go back and forth. I hope it's not like a Pac situation.
No, I think he's going to be on TV every week for the most part. I don't think it's going to be a situation like that. I mean, he's
Because I read that he signed with them because he can now spend more time at home in England.
Yeah. So, I mean, he'll have to travel. But Pac had some issues with his visa. He had a lot of things going on and injuries.
He's another one I want to see against Ospreay.
Oh, yeah. You showed me that video of Brody Lee and Pac from, I guess it was some
crap.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was a good example of especially what Pac can do.
Yeah.
Brody was obviously a phenomenal big man in terms of what he could do in the ring.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great. If anyone saw, there's just Google or YouTube Pac, and I think they might have called him Neville at the time. Was it still Pac? I don't know, but
it was Pac. It wasn't a WWE thing. It was like in Europe or something.
Okay, because it looked like I didn't know Brody always wrestled like that. So he had that look before he joined the Wyatt family.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. Well, God rest his soul. Legend.
Yeah, he definitely is.
But yeah, check that out. That was some good stuff. But what a great time for pro wrestling right now, man. It really is. I keep on saying it every single week. We're obviously gonna have a big SmackDown tonight where Seth Rollins and Cody will be facing Roman and The Rock face to face to answer their. Actually, is Roman and The Rock going to be there?
Rock is, right? If it's in Dallas, Rock is going to be there.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if Rome,
so they are going to
think Rome, yeah.
Yeah, if The Rock's going to be there, Roman's going to be there. You're going to see Cody and Seth. I'm assuming they're going to accept the challenge. It'd be kind of weird if they didn't, being the baby faces.
Yeah.
And then you have that on night one. That probably headlines night one. Which it might have a really weird big ending. And I actually anticipate Cody and Seth losing that match somehow. I don't think Seth, everyone's throwing the idea that maybe Seth turns on Cody. I don't believe that's the case at all. Not even a little bit. I do think it's a possibility that McIntyre helps the final fall of the Roman Empire. I do think that might be a possibility, even if he's going full blown heel, which he's done. But even still, with McIntyre, his character, it still makes sense. Like, he's pissed Seth is doing this. Like, don't be selfish. You need to focus on me and don't take this title.
He gives some sound advice.
And he's a beast on Twitter. So that's what we got going on with that in WWE. One thing I will like to ask you, Vladi, about WWE, and we weren't going to talk about WWE, but we decided this is what's great about our show, folks. We throw curveballs at each other for no reason. WWE Intercontinental Championship match, WrestleMania, Sammy or Chad Gable? Or are they going to do a six-man schmaz, which is stupid? Or both?
See, what I'm worried about with those two titles between the IC and the US, are they doing a gimmick match with multiple guys in each? Or are they going to go narrow it down to two guys for one of them and then a gimmick match for the other? They're really just keeping all their options open at this point. It's a little bit hard to tell. But if you put a gun to my head, I think it's going to be Gable and Gunther.
I hope so. And Gable's the one I wanted. He's put so much work and given really shitty stuff to deal with. He was, for some reason, they had Kurt Angle and this storyline. They went with the tall black kid opposed to the guy who wrestles exactly and almost looks like Kurt Angle. They went with the black kid who got hurt. Jason Jordan, he's actually doing really well. He's a producer now in WWE. But I never understood that, why you put Jason Jordan. It made no sense. And Chad Gable, he initially did the Alpha Academy, which, again, he turned chicken shit into chicken salad. He really did. The shush thing got over. And he's so good in the ring. And then he had that match with Gunther. He's the kind of guy that the fans genuinely get behind because he's been there for so long, not been given the most opportunities, Jason Jordan was the big guy they were pushing out of that crew. If you put a gun to your head, who was the big star, who Vince was going to make the star, and who he wanted to make the star and tried to make the star, was Jason Jordan.
Yeah.
And this kid Gable has stayed consistent, stayed true, and it's great to see where to the point where the fans are truly behind him to get and defeat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. I hope it's him, but man, Sami Zayn, you got to have the argument for that too. Sami is he's not even close to the same status he was a year ago at this point in time. It's not even close.
No, it's not even. There's so many people that leapfrogged him.
Jey Uso.
Unbelievable. Jey Uso, LA Knight. Another one comes to mind.
Maybe even Chad Gable we're seeing. I mean, Sami Zayn is a mid-carder now, folks. Yeah. They did not take advantage of the spot. I don't know what they could have done differently because you couldn't give him the championship in Montreal, obviously. But
great match, but no.
You couldn't give him the championship there because it would have, But they really, after he and Kevin Owens lost that title, he has been not really being super entertaining. I hate to say it. He's not really moving my needle at all. And I don't think he deserves an Intercontinental Championship match to Gunther compared to Gable. And the crowd, I got to be honest, I think a lot of people would want Gable over Sami. I know I do. I know you do. Definitely. And a lot of people do. We want Gable. And Triple H seemingly does what the fans want, opposed to other bookers that the company has had in the past.
I mean, I recall Gable when I was watching NXT, and he was just starting out with that tag team with Jason Jordan. He was trying to get over a gimmick where he kept on saying that he's ready, willing, and Gable.
Yeah, I remember that. Yep. Long hair.
And he had longer hair and all that, and it just... But then they put on some clinics in terms of tag matches with, of course, FTR, and he has shown nothing but great talent in that ring. And I think even the size differential between he and Gunther, it's David versus Goliath, and it writes itself. And they're going the whole family and father route thing, and a lot of people can go and basically connect to that, especially. Even the daughters and the women in the crowd, like they're gonna want him to beat that, the ring general, who seems unbeatable.
He's amazing. You figure he'll get a title shot when they go to Berlin, the Bash in Berlin or whatever they're calling it. Figure he would get. You almost see him turning babyface here too soon, Gunther. Like he's challenging the heels, though. I mean, the fact. When he did that, when he cut that promo on Judgment Day, crowd popped.
When is that show in Berlin again? August 31st. So I'm trying to think, like, say, just trying to project what Gunther would do if he loses the IC. He's going to go up to a world champion sort of rank.
Yeah, I think that's where the
there's already a beef between he and Cody going back to the Royal Rumble too. But would they have Cody drop it so quickly?
I don't think he's going to be Cody. I think it's probably going to be McIntyre.
So you think Gunther would be the babyface in that relationship? Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I don't know if he wins. Punk should be coming back right around that time. I think Punk was they said 6 to 9 months for that kind of injury. Yeah. And Punk even said he's not in a rush to get back. He wants to make sure he's 100% healthy and 100% ready to go. So Punk might not even come back until September.
Right.
So I think it probably would be McIntyre and Gunther. I don't know if Cody would. I don't know if Cody would lose it, but he might. You never know. It's going to be a whole new era with Cody as champion. With Roman not being a champion, this is something we've gotten used to. This is going to be. We're coming up on almost 4 years now. Incredible.
He gets to SummerSlam. Cody's like, my story is over. He loses it to I don't know, some rando.
Jinder Mahal gets a win again.
Imagine they pull him back into that.
Oh,
you'd stop watching.
Oh, what a money grab that was. Hey, India, pay attention to us and spend more money on us. Please. So bad.
It's part of the whole globalization of WWE. Even look what they did here in Australia.
And Berlin and Clash the Castle.
Berlin, and I get
Puerto Rico.
And really, I used to hate the idea of them being on a different time zone and having a pay-per-view. But now it's like, Ideally, when I'm watching a pay-per-view, I like to be able to fast forward it anyway, so I don't really care if it's on like an earlier time, and I just watch it little later and stay off of social media and seeing any of the results. So I'm like, yeah, it is what it is. So, I get it, and there's a lot of money to be made. I mean, that's where they have a really good like step in the right direction there with what they have going.
Look, again, the company's running on all cylinders. They have a lot of different people in place that really are good at what they do. Nick Khan, the board members. I mean, The Rock is a big part of all that. Triple H is obviously, I mean, he's almost getting to a genius level on how well he's running this. Now, obviously, he's got some good help. He's got some of the best minds in the history of the game with him. I mean, Paul Heyman, I think he just purpose on an interview. He said, not that this is a surprise to either one of us, but Paul Heyman has had a monster part in the creative process of Roman Reigns. It's one of the reasons why it's been interesting for the most part for 3.5 years. Obviously, there's a lull here and there, but Paul Heyman and Triple H working together. I mean, do you get better than those two guys? Really?
No, that's a great combination, and that's just them brainstorming together, working with The Rock, even involving him for his ideas, and just it's really legendary what they can kind of do here going forward. Even especially if The Rock maintains this position and is basically involved in the storyline. And I'm not saying every week, but if he continues like a part-time wrestler and comes back at certain feuds and uses his influence to go and do something against the fans, and it's got to be this Hollywood Rock version of him too. There's nothing that's better currently right now. I'm loving it.
This is 97, 98 Rock, brother. This is the good Rock. This is the fresh heel turn Rock when he started being hilarious, where he started getting cheered because he was so good at being a heel, which back then didn't happen too often. It only happened to a few guys. I think Austin, the NWO, and The Rock, But speaking of which, and we didn't talk about this in pre-production, but we might as well.
Yeah.
The GOAT of managers has been announced. He will be inducted into the Hall of Fame, the WWE Hall of Fame. Paul Heyman, Paulie Dangerously, legend, arguably the greatest mind in wrestling history. Someone would say that, some won't, some would. And he gets in. I know you're going to do a write-up on Facebook for our Facebook group as well. But Paul Heyman, you said it a couple months ago because WWE WrestleMania was going to be in Philadelphia. I said I don't think he wants to do it yet because he's still very much active and still very much a major player. I was wrong. You were right again. And Paul Heyman is inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's going to have a nice moment in Philadelphia. To me, he's the best of all time because of his longevity. Bobby quit early. Bobby switched to commentating, a lot earlier than Heyman ever even did, really, consistently anyway. And Bobby kind of dropped out. And Bobby, many people, Bobby's no slouch. He's the second best manager of all time, and he's one of the best commentators of all time. So he's still a legend.
Yeah.
But in terms of you just being an advocate, manager, or special counsel, or best friend, or whatever the hell he was with CM Punk, he is the greatest of all time. And it's not close at this point. It's not close. His longevity, you're talking about almost 40 years in the business being a manager, and he's done it at a top level. He has no manager's ever managed more WrestleMania main events than him, between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. You saw what he did with ECW, built the company from the ground up and started almost a revolution in the mid-90s. And then obviously coming through with Johnny Dangerously, the Dangerous Alliance and WCW, the Samoan SWAT team. My trainer, Samu, was actually managed by Paul Heyman as well. And then he leaves for a couple years and he comes back and is an advocate for Brock Lesnar in one of the most impressive, dominating runs anyone's ever had. And he ups it again and has one of the greatest long-term stories ever with Roman Reigns. And now he's a special counsel to his tribal chief, and how much he's thrown himself into this storyline and this new version of him.
Yeah.
The way he almost praised to Roman Reigns. It is incredible what this man has done, and certainly certainly well-deserved. It's a little surprising he's going in so early, but he is the GOAT for a reason. Your quick thoughts on Paul Heyman going into the WWE Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I agree with you. He's the greatest manager of all time, one of the greatest minds in wrestling of all time. To me, it's a perfect setting. You don't know when the next WrestleMania might be in Philadelphia. That's where he went and truly became a legend in the business, with him steering the ECW ship, influencing the Attitude Era like probably no other. And as you mentioned, his longevity, going from that situation, getting into WWE and able to survive, like, being fired, coming back, making it right, clashing with people backstage, namely, certain people that used to own it and their daughters. But having him center ring with whatever wrestler just about. There's been a couple here like Curtis Axel, whatever, but
Ryback.
Yeah. Like where you have a situation with him, you are spotlighting almost the guy in the company when he is standing next to you. And it's a privilege at that point, in my opinion. So I'm a Paul Heyman guy through and through. And I could not I could not think of a better circumstance for him to go in and tell the story. And one of the things that you and I sort of kicked around is like, hey, who inducts him?
Well, let's get into it. Who do you think inducts him? Now, everyone is so romantic about ECW. It's kind of an ECW original. A lot of people are saying the Dudley Boys. I don't need a couple more Yonkers Yokels.
Yes.
At least they sound like Yonkers Yokels. And I don't need them to induct Paulie. I also don't need Bully Ray to pat himself on the back of how entertaining and great he is, because he's about as significant. He's about 1/20th as significant to the wrestling business as he thinks he is. So I don't need that either. You could go with an RVD, but the reality is the best guy to nail this speech, and he would nail it, is CM Punk. CM Punk has a way of telling stories and romanticizing the history of the business and the respect that CM Punk says he has for the business. And Paul Heyman is certainly one of those things. They're still friends. When CM Punk was away, Paul Heyman said he talks to him all the time. So these guys are still very close. Also, CM Punk would be able to go deep in between and really pull things out and say things in a way that gives the best tribute to Paul Heyman. I can't see Bully Ray, certainly not Devon. I can't see either one of those guys giving the same kind of speech about Paul Heyman as CM Punk would.
Yeah.
I don't think it's close. You're obviously not going to have Brock Lesnar, who you don't even know who I'm talking about. You're kicking around the idea for Roman Reigns. That would be another one that you might want to do, just because he's so affiliated with him right now, current day. But we know Roman Reigns won't be doing as good of a job as CM Punk would.
No.
And Roman Reigns is also going to have a little thing called the biggest, one of the biggest matches in WrestleMania history, 2 of them that weekend. So it might not work. Punk doesn't have a match. He might. I think he's going to be part of WrestleMania. He might be the host, or he'll do something. He will be a big part of WrestleMania weekend, just not in the ring. But I think CM Punk is the perfect guy. And I'm critical of Punk. But when it comes to talking on this microphone, there's not many people that do it better than Punk. Maybe Paul Heyman's one of the 2 or 3 of all time, in my eyes. So Punk loves him. They're dear friends. Paul Heyman had a very big part in CM Punk's career, bringing him up to ECW when he took over when that ECW reboot happened, being his manager, kind of looking out for him when he was in OVW. So there's a lot of backing there. I think it's a slam dunk. You put CM, and also get CM Punk on a camera, and you get to utilize his talents, which is something that we haven't seen in WrestleMania season in a long time. So CM Punk gets my vote.
Yeah, he's the perfect MC for that moment and to induct him, and that's a good faith thing too for Triple H to hand that baton to Punk, because he's immortalizing one of the greatest, if not the greatest, manager in the history of the business, but also he's inducting his friend. And that's just a really good thing for like all that are involved, including the fans. So yeah, I like. I'm going to be interested in watching that segment of that Hall of Fame sort of evening or gala, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it doesn't get much better, man. If like you can go and put Punk inducting Heyman, you know, better get a drink and take your bathroom break before that segment because you'll probably be there for about 45 minutes at least.
Yeah, they both will be able to tell it. And also the speech by Heyman's, I'm sure, is going to be brilliant.
Yes.
And he deserves it. And I'm glad he's getting his flowers. No one's better than Paul Heyman at all.
Yeah.
You know, so there are rumors other people, Midnight Express possibly getting in with Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette with a live mic, which I think he would handle himself really well if that happens. So, but you ever notice that like a rumor starts online where fans just start, hey, they should, because I saw that. I didn't hear a rumor that it's going to happen. I heard fans saying that it should happen.
Yeah. I think some of the universe tries to will it to happen.
And it's worked. And every time
honestly, like Midnight Express belongs in any sort of Hall of Fame for wrestling. And especially right now with Cornette and his fame with podcasts and everything, you strike when the iron is hot. It would be great. And another nice moment on the evening to see him get in himself and also induct those guys.
And unfortunately, beautiful Bobby obviously isn't with us anymore, unfortunately.
Right. But if anybody could go and capture his spirit
Stan Lane's still around, I'm sure.
And then Cornette mentions Bobby Eaton's name, and you could hear it in his voice. He gets a little bit touched, and it would be another human, nice wrestling moment there. I mean, so that's another one that was kicked around. Famous Japanese wrestler was a Bull Nakano.
Well, Nakano, yeah, she had a run in WWE, but she was a Japanese legendary women's. Yeah. I feel like it's a lot easier if you're a decent women's wrestler in the past to get in the Hall of Fame than it is a man, because I mean, you have how many people haven't been inducted in the Hall of Fame, like legends, like Sid Vicious isn't in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
The guy main evented 2 WrestleManias, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
Champion in every company he ever went to. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but he's not. Right. Yet, Charmel is. From Booker T's wife. Like, get the fuck out of here. What? Was she even a wrestler, for Christ's sake?
Valet.
That's it? She had like a 3-year run as a valet. Like, how does she make it in the Hall of Fame?
Another name
Michelle McCool made the Hall of Fame. Like, what is that?
What about Bray Wyatt this year?
Yeah, Bray Wyatt would be a great one. You also hearing DDP might get the Warrior Award. They're still calling it the Warrior Award, even though I think they got rid of Dana Warrior.
Yeah, they had a cut.
You're gonna call yourself Dana Warrior? So stupid. So stupid. I'm talking about drinking your husband's Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
He must have got her to make some crazy noises in the bed if she's calling herself Dana Warrior.
Why was she cutting promos like him?
No, but I mean, why do you want to call yourself Dana Warrior?
Well, he changed his name legally.
They did cut her, right? She's no longer.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Thank God, because every time I hated it. Every time she gave out that friggin' award, she spent 15 minutes blowing a homophobic douchebag who was a horrible person in the business. Somehow, the Ultimate Warrior gets blown. I don't get it. The guy was a homophobe. He did business in a horrible way, holding Vince ransom, treated other wrestlers like total shit. Guy wasn't a good guy. And the fact that he has a name, a award, which is essentially like the Walter Payton Award in the NFL, for him to have an award named after him is a disaster. You can't come up with another legendary professional wrestler to call it that's done more for the world than the Ultimate Warrior?
Connor the Crusher.
Yeah, call it Connor's Award. Yeah. The Ultimate Warrior should not have an award named after him. Now, if you want to call it the Warrior Award because you're a warrior, that's one thing. But it shouldn't have anything to do with the Ultimate Warrior. Guy was a douchebag. F him. And I rooted for him in WrestleMania 6, by the way.
Jeez. Not me, man. I stopped watching.
I know that was when you stopped watching. I stopped watching. I didn't really stop watching until I guess around 12, like 11, 12, 13 is when I wasn't really big into it. The Diesel era.
Yeah. I mean, there is that point in your life, and it's like I started watching more real sports more consistently.
Start masturbating and looking at women.
That might be part of it.
You get different interests. I sounded like I was going through puberty too, like Tony Khan. But but hopefully DDP gets the Warrior Award. I don't think there's many people who have helped more people on this planet than Diamond Dallas Page. He's look at what he's even done for Buff Bagwell and Scotty Riggs. I kind of going down in the card though with the people he's helping. Scotty Riggs.
Somebody on the upper heavyweight or upper part of the card's got to go and become a complete mess.
Like Jake Roberts and Scott Hall, big names. DDP, you got to focus on bigger names.
Yeah, like John Cena or something.
Maybe you could help Vince with his sex addiction. Vince McMahon, I know you don't know him. I get it.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Oh. Yeah, then one quick thing on Vince McMahon, actually, to be serious for a second. The president of TKO just came out and said, I forget his name, Shapiro maybe, or I don't know. But anyway, the president of TKO just came out and said he's not with us. He's nothing to do with us. He's never coming back to the company. So Vince McMahon is cut the F off. He just sold a shitload of shares as well, like over 450 million shares or $450 million worth of shares?
Yeah, I think it's 450 million. He's probably starting to see some legal fees add up.
like other billionaires we know. Time to pay the piper, Mr. McMahon.
Roddy Piper's involved in this?
By laughing his ass off from hell.
Yeah.
I say that because during his biography on A&E, Vince McMahon did this thing where he was talking to Roddy Piper while Roddy Piper was in hell. Which I was like...
I remember that, yeah.
I mean, Roddy Piper would get a kick out of it if he was alive, but...
Yeah, I remember that being awkward.
I just was weird.
Yeah.
But he did say he'll see him there. So I get where Vince was coming because Vince knows how much of a lowlife he was. So... But anyways, nobody else got going on.
I know it's in every NDA.
There's something happened with Patterson and Piper. I don't know what it is. You saw that interview, right?
I did, and it's just like it's such a seedy underbelly, man. And
if anyone has never seen it, go back and Google Roddy Piper and Pat Patterson. Roddy Piper talks like a rape victim when he's talking about Pat Patterson. I don't like Patterson. I don't like Patterson that much. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. It was almost like he kind of sounded like that character that he played in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he's like, "Oh, you got kids, Maniac? Not anymore." Like he had that emotion he was working with there during this interview. It was really scary. Like Pipe, didn't he? I mean, he really looked like he was in some weird way molested by Pat Patterson. He alluded to it and then never pulled the trigger on telling you the truth. Telling the story.
And Patterson's always spoken of highly, like everybody that worked with him. But then, and again, you and I don't know what actually happened. And there was those stories that came out, the boys that were helping out with the rings, and there was a certain referee, Patterson's name got mentioned, and there was like another guy who got fired. So yeah, man, it just, you never know. And it's unfortunate that, and Roddy Piper started wrestling when he was a younger kid. I think he was like 16 or something, 15, 16.
Might have been 15, to be honest with you. He was young. So, he was a youngin' for sure. Homeless.
Yeah, and then again, so kids who's out on his luck, and he's, available to be taken advantage of, and it's like Roddy Piper's like being asked about this, and it's almost like it becomes a therapy session. Very odd interview. Very strange.
It was weird. You feel like something really bad happened.
Yeah.
At least from Roddy's perspective. Maybe he got drunk and they had a moment, and Roddy felt ashamed because he's a Christian.
Was he?
I believe he was, yeah. Hardcore Christian, I believe, wasn't he? I'm not 100%. I'm pretty sure, though. He might not have been, though. So I'm just randomly saying that I think I could be confusing him with Ric Flair, because Ric Flair became a big Christian when he was sober for a year.
Randomly, like, labeling people with their religion views.
I know he talked about God a lot. He did talk about God in his interviews. So he was a religion. He was I don't know about highly religious. I mean, he lived his life a certain way. Certainly procreated a lot. But I don't know. I have no idea. I just was trying to make a joke about him being ashamed of being gay. And that he enjoyed it. Always wore a dress.
Well, he's Scottish.
He's not. He's fucking from Canada. Not even Scottish.
He's Scottish, though. He's got the
He's not
heritage.
Scottish.
Come on, man. You told me that was
the bagpipes, so they called him a Scottish guy. He's from he's from Saskatchewan.
I know he's Canadian, but there's definitely some Scottish.
Well, I think he had he might have some he might be Scottish as like his ancestry, but he's definitely Canadian, and he learned how to play the bagpipes, and they just called him Roddy the Piper, and that's how they gave him the name.
His original ring name was the Masked Canadian.
Not another day. He was literally called a Canadian. His first gimmick. Look at that. What was his real name? Roderick Strong.
Yeah, he has Scottish heritage. That's the whole thing.
Well, he learned how to play the bagpipe. I would assume he had to have some kind of connection to the Scots or Irish people. You're playing the bagpipes for a reason. That's not getting you laid. Bagpipes are not getting you laid.
Hey man, I've seen these bagpipers come into a bar and the ladies start swooning.
That's because they love them, those kilts, those legs.
See? You know what he was doing.
Don't look up my kilt, you pervert. Drew McIntyre this past week, that was great. Or the week before. Don't look at my kilt, you perv. Well, we were able to get some WWE in after all, Vladi.
Yeah, we did.
So I think that's all we got for today's show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Vladi, anything else you got going on?
That's it, man. That's it. We're all good to go here for sure.
Well, AEW is on the right path. WWE is in the middle of WrestleMania season. We're hoping to see some things really start cultivating here. And we are in the midst of one of the greatest times in professional wrestling. So I hope you guys are along for the ride with us. Hit the subscribe button. Follow us on everywhere you get your podcasts. And enjoy. And tell us what you guys think. Who should induct Paul Heyman? Where do you think AEW is going? We want to hear from you. So for Vladi Dottie, this is Silicon Steve Valley. This has been High Spots and Cheap Pops here at the lesson.